Welcome everyone to another episode of Faye Fitness. Today is going to be another Cooking with Faye video, and I'm going to show you all how to make some delicious cabbage soup. So if this sounds like something you would be interested in learning how to make, stay tuned and I'll show you how. So here's everything we're going to need in order to make this recipe, guys. I've got 3 carrots here, a yellow onion, some celery, obviously the cabbage, since we're making cabbage soup, some garlic, bay leaves, salt and pepper, and water. So it's going to be really easy peasy. I'm also going to throw in some beef broth that I made. If you haven't seen my paleo beef broth recipe, check it out and I will link it down below. But I'm just going to add that to help make the sauce a little bit thicker and more flavorful. If you are in a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, feel free to use some vegetable broth or water or whatever you like, and just feel free to omit that. We're going to need a cutting board, a knife, and obviously a pot big enough to put everything in. So without further ado, let's get to chopping some vegetables. Okay, so first I'm going to start by cutting my carrots, and because I plan on using a stick blender once the soup is actually made to make everything a little bit creamier, I'm just going to cut these into diagonal slices. Slices. But I'm not going to be too careful about making them super small or easy to eat, so I'm kind of just leaving them about this big since I know that I'm going to be blending them up later. However, if you don't want to use a blender or you don't have one, I would just cut these up really small, just dice them or mince them, and then they will be perfect, A, for cooking, and B, for eating once the soup is done. So let's just finish this up. Put these in. And now we can get started with this onion. So if you've seen me chop onions before, the way I like to do it is to chop the top off, and then I'll turn him on his base and cut him in half, so just like that, and then peel the skin off. You can do that by, if you have fingernails, just nabbing the crinkly colored part and then just pulling back, and then that will reveal the actual part of the onion that you want to eat underneath. So next what I'm going to do is, with my onion on the cutting board in this position, I'm going to cut slices this way, and then once I have all my slices, I'm going to rotate the knife and cut this way, and that'll give me a nice dice texture to work with. And you can make these slices as thick or as thin as you like, depending upon how minced or diced you would like for them to be. This is kind of what they'll look like when they're done. And then so you just cut, cut, cut. Please do not slice your hands open or slip. Sometimes onions can be a little slippery, so please be very careful while you're cutting these. Pop these in. And then I'm just going to do the same to this other guy. So next what I'm going to do is take the celery, and I'm going to chop the end off and chop the tops off, because I don't know if you can see, they've gotten just a little bit discolored and kind of icky. I'm sure there's nothing actually wrong with them, but I don't necessarily want to put this in soup that I plan on serving to other people. So, call me weird, but Natsu will enjoy eating these regardless. So, what I'm just going to do now is just chop these into slices, like we did with the carrots. and toss them in. Now these little guys also have the leafy bits. Some people don't like them, some people do. Because I'm going to be blending this up so fine at the end, it doesn't really matter to me. So no one's going to be able to tell that these were in here. But if they bother you, please take them out and don't use them. Or if they don't bother you, please feel free to add them. Like I've said before, cooking is all about doing whatever you like. Make each recipe your own. If there is something that I'm using that you don't like, feel free to omit it. Or if I've forgotten to add an ingredient that you do like, feel free to add that as well. All right, so next I'm going to take this bad boy, chop them in half, and then we'll be right back. Cabbage has been cut in half. I'm just going to take this portion, set it aside to go back into the fridge, and then start cutting up this one. And again, this half is going to be the same way with the onion. So I'm going to cut this way, and then once I have my slices, cut the opposite way so we have some nice diced marks. If you do not plan on putting this in the blender, I recommend chopping this a lot finer than I'm going to. And if you don't like this middle section where the stem was, feel free to cut that out. So I can show you how to do that. It's really easy peasy. So let me just finish making my slices here. So can you see how we chopped on either side up into this stem part? So now what I'm going to do is just lay this guy sideways, chop them here, and then this can go to my bunny or your compost pile, and this can go in the soup. Ta-da! Easy peasy. Alright, so now let's turn these guys sideways and start chopping. Oh no, make a mess. Okay, so now I'm just going to put all of this in my pan, or in my pot, pardon me. Okay. No, make it a mess. And so now it's time to add my beef broth. About a tablespoon of garlic. I'm just going to eyeball this. If I put too much in, that's quite alright. I love garlic, so it's not going to be any bad thing here. And then I'm just going to do 2 bay leaves, salt and pepper to taste. And if you want to add other herbs or spices at this point, feel free. And then about 5 cups of water. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is put a lid on this guy, put him on the stove top over high heat, and we'll check back in once he starts to boil. Okie dokie guys, so we just reached a boil. So I'm going to take the lid off so you can see how the soup is doing. So what I'm going to do now is just turn this little guy down to a simmer. And then we're just going to let that thing sit for an hour and we will come back and check it then. Okay guys, so it's been an hour and our soup is nice and soft and ready to either serve as is, or if you're like me, you can stick in your stick blender and mix everything up into a nice puree. So while I'm blending with this, I'm going to shut the camera off just because this little guy is rather loud and makes for some poor audio quality. So I will be back in just a second. So here is the finished product, guys. I decided to leave just a little bit of chunks in the soup and not puree it into a completely fine liquid consistency. Just because I thought it might be a good variety of textures and flavors in the soup. However, if you have tried this yourself and blended it to a really nice even consistency where everything is nice and blended up and you like it better, please let me know. But otherwise, let's get this guy plated up so you can see what it looks like. This is what the soup will look like when you have it all nice and served up in a bowl and ready to eat. So this has been another edition of Cooking with Faye. Thank you so much for joining me today. Please like and subscribe to stay up to date on all of my fresh new content, and I will see you all next week. Have a good day, guys. Bye-bye.